guys, and welcome to the Multipliers podcast. It's been a while since we've been in a booth together. We have had a couple of technical difficulties. You can probably tell by the ambience and lighting of the room we are in a new location, but the good news is we're back. We're in the booth and we've got special guests lined up every single week for the foreseeable future, including a very special guest who we've got in the booth today, who is a multi-million pound property investor, sales trainer, NLP expert, #1 best-selling author on Amazon, Steve Doran.
Thank you very much. Don't stop.
So yeah, welcome to the Multipliers podcast, Steve. Obviously, we've just done a very, very valuable NLP training course over the last 3 days.
Intense few days.
A very intense but very valuable few days. So yeah, firstly, introduce yourself. Who are you, Steve, and why are you here?
Steve Doran, I don't know if I can do a better introduction than what you did, but yeah, I've had the good fortune of spending a few days with you guys delivering some NLP training, which has been incredible, and I'm glad to hear that it's been super valuable. So that's one thing that I'm passionate about. I'm very fortunate to be in a position now where I get to spend time with incredible people doing really interesting things, and so that's how I'm trying to shape my life and destiny, is to do things that I enjoy and add as much value as I can along the way. So I'm a big believer that everywhere you go, you should leave things better than you found them. So if I come into this room, I should leave you guys feeling better than I found you. If I go into a toilet, I often give this example. I don't know why I haven't got a better example, but if I go into a toilet and there's a bit of tissue on the floor, I want to pick it up and put it in the bin and leave the toilet better than I found it. But I also expand that out globally, and my mission in life is to leave the world just a little bit better than I found it. And so NLP is a great example of a tool that I can use to help me with that.
Incredible. So for the listeners, what is NLP?
That's a good point, and it's a good question, and it's probably one worth addressing. So NLP it stands for neuro-linguistic programming, but don't get too overwhelmed by the complexity of the name. It's the art and science of personal excellence. Now, neuro looks at the way we process the world, how we take things in for our 5 senses, how we perceive it, and how we create our representations and beliefs. And the linguistic part looks at the language that we use, both linguistically and physiologically with our body language, and how we communicate with other people and how we communicate with ourselves. And then the programming is about our habits that we have. So our habits really are what make us who we are. So the programs that we run on a daily basis, and realizing the space to change those and tweak those if it's going to provide a better outcome for us, if it's going to provide us with a better life. Now, I know that's quite a mouthful, but some of the stuff that we looked at was how we can apply NLP in business and how we can use those communication skills to develop our business, because of course they're great interpersonal skills, but businesses are built on relationships and your ability to create relationships, and also to help to influence other people towards win-win situations.
I think to add, after doing this, obviously we figured out that I think it's 95% of all purchase decisions are based off of the emotional buy. So I think that's kind of for the listeners to show the importance of, because I think when we first heard it, Sam especially, he's very in a sales role. He thought, okay, it sounds good, it sounds interesting, but is that really what I need right now, where I am in my career, trying to improve on my sales thing? And obviously, like, now you've completed it, you understand, oh shit, like actually it's everything to do with the sales. Yeah. And like I say, back to my point of 90% is basically all to do with this. I know there's different techniques people do learn, but it's basically just getting to the core level of the understanding of why people do things or how they behave. And obviously we go into a few examples. I'll let you explain, like the mirror matching and all of that. You got a good story that you told us about at the airport. But yeah, I think the examples you gave us is what kind of really got me intrigued, where I thought, wow, like this is powerful stuff. And I think straight away, we've all been on the phone. We've all been out to look at, I've been at site visits. These boys obviously trying to close clients on the phone. We've been implementing things, and you start to understand straight away how powerful this stuff is.
Yeah, just to 100%, just to add to that. So the second day into Steve's NLP course, on the lunch break, I closed the deal by using NLP. So let's talk about the link with sales and influencing people and NLP and how they go hand in hand. So for a salesperson listening to this, and there will be a few listening, how important would you say the basics are of neuro-linguistic programming to becoming the best version of themselves in a sales environment?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what NLP really highlights is the fact that we're always influencing people one way or another. And what we're really doing is bringing awareness to the way that we're influencing. So I might be influencing you in a positive way, a negative way. I don't know if I don't really understand the influence or language patterns that I'm using, the physiology, and what am I communicating. So it's bringing awareness to our communication, and there is quite a heavy ethical consideration there when you're starting to learn tools that are very influential, to make sure that you're always influencing with the other person's best intention as well. So you're trying to get a win-win outcome. So that's one thing I'm a big believer on, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that every scenario that you go into should be a win-win. So I just want to address that quite early on, because ethics is a big part of NLP. So yes, you have the tools and techniques to be able to influence somebody, and yes, you're always doing that anyway. We're just bringing awareness to how you're doing that and trying to do that to produce good outcomes for all parties. So, sorry, the question was how do we influence, or was it how does it apply?
So the question was, how important would you say it is for a salesperson trying to become the best version of themselves? How important would you say it is for them to learn the basics of NLP?
It's critical, and most good salespeople will have picked up on NLP tools one way or another through vicariously, so sort of through training that's dripped through, and they just won't necessarily understand why those tools work or what those tools are. So NLP is just digging into the nuts and bolts of or the mechanics of a sale and the mechanics of the language patterns, and understanding why your language patterns are producing a certain result, and also your tonality and your physiology as well, because those things all on the whole are part of our communication. But it's not just that. So it's not just the way that we're trying to influence other people, it's the way that we influence ourselves. So if I'm a salesperson, it's critically important that I'm able to get myself in a performance state, or even, to be honest, any person just in life wanting to achieve anything has to be able to get themselves into a state. So to be able to tune into their own physiology and get themselves in a position and a place where they can perform well. And so NLP's got a lot of tools, techniques and strategies to get you into those states, and to lead other people into those states as well, and to use language patterns and so forth to take people to an outcome. So yeah, anyone wants to be good at sales, leadership, management, marketing from a communication perspective, NLP is for me the holy grail. But I mean, there are other things as well, but it's as good as it gets.
It's not even just sales either, is it? It's even your day-to-day life. Even if you're talking to friends, your partner, or
it's
whatever,
everything.
You're talking and you're trying to win them around to maybe your way of thinking.
Yeah, so I always use the example that a sale is a definition of a sale is a transfer of enthusiasm. So me selling you is me getting enthusiastic and passing that enthusiasm on to you. Now that can be anything. That can be me saying, come on, let's go to the gym, let's get this workout done, let's get ourselves in shape. Selling you on the idea. It's a positive influence that I'm rolling out. Now, if I know language patterns and I know how to control my physiology and your physiology, then I'm going to get a better outcome than if I don't, and if I'm trying to function well in my own relationships, whether my friendships or my actual relationship, or if I'm trying to function well in life or in business, it's going to be critically important that I can help people into better states that are more resourceful and more useful in those respective contexts.
Just being so aware of what you're saying, how you're saying it, how they're responding, how they're behaving, and we all do it in normal life. Like obviously coming out of the training course, and we've all done it, you do analyse people so much more, and now we can understand and put labels on some of the actions that they're doing or things that they're saying, and you can respond in a way, but you're just so aware of it. That's the nuts and the bolts of it.
You're aware of other people, like other salespeople, or not necessarily just sales, but business people now, even on social media, you can tell kind of who's done some training or who's definitely done training.
But like Steve said, that they might have even done training on NLP.
Maybe not specifically, but
we do it every day without even realising.
The elements of it. I think it's ultimately, I think initially when you first hear it, it's something that you might think, oh, maybe that's not for me or that's not for right now. But my advice, and obviously we all practice what we preach. We spoke a lot on the podcast before about mentorships and getting mentors and reinvesting back into yourself. It's the best thing you can do. And obviously here's another example. We've already had a previous mentor on the podcast as well. So we've all invested and
You're taking that
can
money.
safely. Yeah, taking that money.
He hasn't sold
Not
us
all
the
of it
platinum.
yet. Not all of it yet. There's still
We ain't
more.
had the platinum package yet.
We're just scratching the surface, boys.
Yeah. So what's something that really got our engagement, I think, was over the last 3 days was the examples you gave. Some of the case studies, some of the experiments that have been done in the past, both by yourself or by psychologists. Some of the funny ones, I guess. The airport story was a good one. If you want to go into a bit of detail there and what that technique is and how it can be used.
Yeah, I love to play with a load of stuff. If you're into psychology studies, there's a lot of good social psychology studies. So some of the things I do with my friends are like, go into a lift, face the wrong way. When everyone else gets in the lift, they'll face the wrong way. So that's one that you can try at home. You're welcome. Well, maybe not at home unless you've got a lift at home. You know what I mean.
Have you got a lift?
Not everyone have lifts in
Sorry, I forget. You've not got an escalator in your house. Or another one is like, if you've got a group like us, we should try this later. If you if everyone in the group points up at the sky and starts looking up in the sky at nothing, and you're in a crowded place, and other people will come and look and try and see what you're looking at, and then eventually you get enough people looking at the original people can step out of the group and just leave a load of people looking at the sky, not knowing what they're looking at. The example that you're talking about was regarding matching and mirroring. So I went to a training seminar over in LA before with a friend of mine, and they were discussing matching and mirroring and building rapport and how you can match and mirror somebody's body language. So that would be when you sort of match what somebody's doing, kind of like how you two are with your hands at the moment.
All four of us.
Subconsciously. So matching gestures, for example, or mirroring by actually doing the same or a version of the same physiology as that other person that you're all trying to do different now, aren't you? Yeah. But what happens is if you match and mirror somebody for long enough, you start to develop if they don't notice it consciously, you start to develop a level of unconscious responsiveness. Now, that's the definition of rapport. The definition of rapport is unconscious responsiveness. Big myth that people think rapport is somebody liking you. It's not. It's the ability to get that person to respond to you without them really thinking about it in one way, shape or form. Now, if you match and mirror somebody's body language for long enough, now try this at home if you don't believe me, then what happens, we call that pacing. So you're meeting them at their map of the world. If you then ultimately change what you're doing, if you've matched them long enough and you've built enough rapport, then you can lead them and get them to change their physiology again without them knowing. So this is what I did was I was at the airport picking up on the story that you touched on, coming back from LA. I was waiting for the flight. I was with a friend of mine and there was a lady sitting across from me and I was bored. So I just started matching and mirroring everything that she did. So when she crossed her legs, I crossed my legs. When she picked up a drink and took a drink, I picked up my drink and took a drink. She touched her bag, I touched my bag. She touched her hair, I touched my hair. I did that for about 10, 15 minutes.
He took his top off. She took her top off.
I did not take my top off at that point. So basically what happened, and she didn't notice that I was doing this because this is just in her peripheral.
He touched himself.
This is why you wanted me to tell this story, just so you could heckle me throughout the whole thing. Basically what happened is we developed rapport, unconscious responsiveness. I managed to then change what I was doing and she was copying what I was doing. So no longer was I copying her, now she was unconsciously copying me. So I uncrossed my legs, she uncrossed her legs, not to be taken out of context. I picked up my drink, get your head out of the gutter, man. I picked up my drink, she picked up her drink, and I was really excited by this because, we just learned all about this and now I'm literally doing it. I've done this loads of times, by the way, sat in bars, Is
that the first time you'd done it?
That's the first time I'd really just done it with a complete random person who didn't know it was happening. I wasn't even having a conversation. You don't need to have a conversation, no eye contact, nothing. Don't have to have a conversation with that person. I've done it with a guy randomly sitting along a bar who then came up to me and was like, I'm sure I know you somewhere. After I built rapport with him unconsciously for like 10 minutes. Yeah. Right. So in this scenario, then I turned around to my mate and I said, look, I've been pacing and leading. Like she's copying what I'm doing now. Like, look, watch this. And I'm moving and she's copying the movements and stuff like that. And my mate just turned around to me and he's like, Steve, you're weird.
I find that so fascinating though, because talking about mirror matching on a bit of a deeper level, so they say you're a product of your environment. Like there's been situations where I might have been with my cousins who might be a bit cockney, and then by the end of the week and I'm like, all right mate, what you saying? And then vice versa, if you're chilling with people that speak really well and articulate, like if you spend enough time with them, you'll speak well and you'll speak articulate.
Agreed.
You know, going back to mirror matching as well, there was an example when you were in our office, I think it was yesterday, you had us in Rapport, you crossed your legs, I look at Joe, Jake, Luke, everyone's got their legs crossed, I'm like, what's he doing? It really is crazy.
Mind fucking us.
Buy more.
By now, you guys should really know the value.
Yeah, good example. Very good example.
And by now, I'm sure you're starting to understand how you can be influenced unconsciously and not even realise. And by now, all of you guys will see the importance of joining the platinum package that I've designed for you.
Take my credit card, mate.
Just take it. But yeah, I'm just joking around. We spoke about different language patterns the other day, and as you guys know, there's examples of language patterns like embedded suggestions or embedded commands, where you're sort of saying something within a sentence, but you're not saying it. So in that example, I'm saying buy now, but what I'm really saying is buy now. And you gave a good example about Toyota.
Yeah, so there's a car what Toyota make, and it's called the I Go Buy Toyota. And if you break that down, it says I go and buy a Toyota. So it's interesting to see the biggest brands in the world that they're doing NLP. Yeah. It really is quite fascinating. So, you know, aside from the NLP, you've had a very successful life, very successful career. Where did it kind of all start for you in terms of sales? Because I know you've trained some of the, most successful sales floors in the UK. I've even worked at a couple of them from your training that's been passed on to me by other managers. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about your sales career and how it all started.
So it's an interesting one. So initially I was, years ago, going back now, I was a firefighter. So my first job wasn't really related in any way, shape or form to business or sales, but I was hungry. I'd grown up quite poor, not playing a violin, just giving you context. And so I really wanted to become wealthy. I just had this burning desire. So as you know, with the fire brigade shifts, you get your 4 days on, your 4 days off. And on my 4 days off, I was always just trying to set up some business or other.
Is that why it's called Burn the Bullshit?
No, that's just a happy coincidence. Unless
that's just an NLP program. Coincidence.
Yeah, it's just a happy coincidence.
The anchor.
So it's not what an anchor is. And you know that you need the platinum package. You need the platinum package. I'm not saying that you need the platinum package. I'm not saying it will make you the most incredible business person in the world. But you know what I'm saying. Where I'm at, yeah. So, okay, I was a firefighter, set up all these different businesses, and obviously then when you're becoming entrepreneurial, you need to learn to build relationships. So now, I was heavily into personal development. Years ago, I just used to go and attend, and I still do, invest in a lot of different training, a lot of different mentorships, and then I came across NLP. So that was about 9 years ago that I came across NLP. So it's quite far into my sort of entrepreneurial journey, but it just clicked for me. I was like, okay, before now, we're always doing this stuff, as we've said before, but it brought my conscious awareness to what I was doing and allowed me to understand the mechanics behind language patterns, the mechanics behind body language, the mechanics behind why all of this stuff actually works. And I just got obsessed. So I went on every single course I could possibly go on, read every single book I could possibly read, and ultimately became an NLP trainer, delivered training courses, and then just got asked to speak in a lot of different places to deliver specific types of training. So one function or one use of NLP is for sales. So a lot of sales floors and sales teams have asked me to come and deliver training to them. Same as management as well, because you're influencing people in management. So I've delivered a lot of training to people in management as well. But to pick up on your point, yeah, sales, I guess we're always selling, right? And this is something we spoke about. There's this stigma attached to sales. So I'm always a little bit apprehensive about just saying sales. But one way or another, you're selling someone on something. You're selling them on the idea of something. You know, you guys sold me on the idea of this podcast by you lured me in with promise of Thai food. We shot for 10 minutes and then you told me we weren't even recording. So that dim sum is getting further and further away. I think that might have been ignorant. I don't think that's Thai food. It is recording, right? I better get back on track. So, because now I've got a well off. I've NLP'd the shit out of myself. Probably chopped that. I'm just in trance. I'm in trance. What were we saying? Oh yeah, how do we get onto sales? Yeah, I think I answered it.
Yeah, I think you did, mate. Yeah, it's very interesting in terms of like sales culture as well, because me and Jake come from an industry where we always advised to spend our money before we earned it. So I remember I was like 19, I financed a Rolex. My manager, I won't say who or who the company was, he tried to get me to finance a Mercedes, provide a driving license. Like you're in that culture, and the mindset is, you know, if your outgoings are higher, you'll make more money. Let's go back to you in your 20s, because I know you were a serious flosser. You had the Lamborghini, you lived in a £2.5 million house. How was you then, and how have you changed with maturity and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fundamental principle there that shifted for me is back then I would spend what I had and invest what was left. So I was still investing in property, but I would spend my money on, as you say, cars and whatever else, a lot of holidays. Still do that. That's my vice, but I'm okay with it. So back then I would spend my money, I'd invest what's left. Nowadays I invest my money, I spend what's left. In fact, I don't even do that. I invest my money. So whatever I make business-wise, I invest into property, and then whatever comes out of property, I spend that. And then I know that that's recurring revenue that I'm going to get every single month. And that way I can never fall below that income that I've got, become acclimatized to. And I understand that methodology, but I don't agree with it. You know, like in sales environments where they're like, I'll spend every single penny of your money because then people are going to be hungry. Like, you can make yourself hungry without making yourself broke. Like, that's a completely unnecessary approach. So how do you do that? Well, you create a healthy bit of pressure. So for me, hunger, and everyone's just got different drivers. For me, my hunger comes from stirring up pain. For a lot of people it does, but I just stir up the pain. If I'm not doing what I should be doing, let's face it, even I don't always get everything done that I could be doing. That was a language pattern change there from should to could. I know you noticed that he's quite sharp on that. So then what do? Well, I stir up the pain. For me, it's all good saying, well, if I do this, then one day I'm going to be mega wealthy and I'm going to be able to have this car and this holiday and whatever else. But trust me, on the days when you can't be fucking bothered, that is not going to get you out of bed. But what will get you out of bed is telling yourself, if I don't do this, then, you know, so if I don't do this, then who doesn't? And for me, this is leverage. Like, it's not about me anymore. If other people lose out because of me and my lack of action, that's going to drive me. So if I don't do this, then who misses out as a result of this? So if I don't do this, then my partner's not going to have the same quality life that she could have. My children are not going to have the level of life, and their children eventually won't have the level of life that they could have. And my parents won't have some of the things that I could provide for them. So all of these people are going to miss out because I'm not getting out and handling my shit. So for me, it's like stir up the pain in a different way. You don't have to wipe out your bank balance every month because that's not sustainable, man. That's risky business.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's some really good advice, to be fair. I think a lot of people listening to this will be in performance-based roles. You know, entrepreneurship is performance-based, running a business, 100%. Performance-based, sales is performance-based. What would your advice be to somebody who might be struggling a little bit at the moment in terms of motivation and discipline? How can they become a better version of themselves to achieve an optimal level?
It's a great question for so many reasons. Number one, let's make a distinction between motivation and discipline, because they're not the same thing. Motivation is, I feel like doing this, and that's going to get you so far. Discipline will get you everywhere. Discipline is, I don't feel like doing this now. Doesn't matter. It's not even thinking about the fact I said I would do this, so I'm doing it. Discipline is doing the shit that you said you were going to do when you don't feel like doing it anymore. Motivation is waiting for a feeling to get you to do something. Discipline is doing something to give you the feeling. The syntax is different. The order's different. They're two polar opposite things. So I'm 100% advocate of discipline, and motivation is here nor there. You know, I feel like it's like gym, right? If I don't want to go to the gym and I'm trying to get myself motivated, good luck with that. Genuinely good luck with that. But if I go to the gym because I said I'll go to the gym, and I just break that down into the smaller steps. First thing, I pack my bag, I turn up, I go there, I do one exercise. By the time I get out of that gym, I guarantee you're going to feel motivated because you handled your shit. So I think people have this misconception that we've got to get motivated and do something. No, you've got to do something and then you're going to get motivated. So that's the first bit of advice I would give people. Focus on discipline, your life will be entirely different. But prior to that, just deal with the foundations, man. Make sure you're taking care of, if you're talking about performance, sleep, hydration, nutrition, exercise. All of those things are going to underpin everything that you do as a human being. If you aren't handling those areas, your business, your relationships, everything else, ultimately at some point it's going to be fucked. I mean, exaggerating, but it might well be. But it's 100% not going to be what it could be.
That's really good
100%.
advice. Like, I'm on a bit of a fitness journey of myself recently. I'm doing Muay Thai, gym 5 times a week, and I just feel so much better for it. You know, drinking loads of water, eating clean. Obviously, we're all in the gym pretty much most days. You're in very good shape yourself, you know. How important would you say fitness is to performing at a high level? Because a lot of entrepreneurs, they eat, I don't know, Deliveroo 3 times a day. They're not really exercising. Not saying any
It's
names.
easy to put off though.
Well,
really,
look, do you know what? You said the word earlier, and I sort of, it's my thing, and I just picked up on it. I thought it's interesting, right? So you said, you're a very successful person. In my head, the first question was, how are you defining success? You said you've been very successful since your 20s. You had Lamborghinis, had £2.5 million mansion, but yes, I did. But is that success? It depends. I guess it's a subjective measure. But point being, having money. Let me ask you a question. If you've got money but you haven't got health, is that success?
Definitely not.
If you've got money but you haven't got happiness, is that success?
I wouldn't say so.
No. So it might be an ingredient in your recipe, but it's 100% for me, it's not success. I talk about in my book, a billionaire that committed suicide. Is that success? That's not success, that's failure. And there's no disrespect to suicidal people, a lot of us have been there. But my point being that we've got to focus on building ourselves as human beings. This is just one part of it. So if we make money everything at the detriment of our health, and this is what the Dalai Lama said, wasn't it? When he was asked what surprised him about humanity, he said that man sacrifices his health in order to make money, and then he sacrifices his money to recuperate his health. And he's like,
Makes
what?
no sense.
It makes no sense.
Full circle.
It makes no sense. And there's no reason you can't do all of that stuff, because if you actually focus on your health and you focus on your happiness, that's going to make you a better entrepreneur, more productive, more effective. It's not about how much time you spend doing business. It's about how effective you are in that time. So focusing on getting sharp or sharpening the saw. I'm sure we've all heard that analogy. If we went out to chop wood down and you all just chop for 8 hours and I spend first 4 hours sharpening my saw, and you're like, what are you doing? You're wasting time. But then I come out with my sharp saw and chop all. I guess you don't really chop with a saw. Anyway, I haven't been on the tools for a few years, but you get my point. Axe. But yeah, and I come out, but that's important. And a lot of people think, I've got to get on it, like wake up, I've got to get onto my business, I've got to get onto my business. Busyness and business are not the same thing. We have to focus on the things that are going to make us effective. That's my focus. I always look at what's making me more effective, what's making me more productive, and health, happiness, good relationships, being all round, that protects that, and that supports that mission, and that ultimately creates my definition of success.
When was the last time that you were undisciplined?
Look, discipline is, I'd say the journey to discipline is ongoing. I don't think it's something that you have and then you don't have, or it's not. When was the last time? Right, let me just answer your question. I'm sidestepping it. Yeah, I'm sidestepping it. When was the last time I was undisciplined? Look, I fall off, man. Like, I don't want you to think that I just sit and eat a salad every day, drink 3.8 litres of water and just... 25 bottles of fuel that I never purchased. No, I don't want you, that's a myth. Like, that's not what I'm about. So I'm a big believer. This is the mistake that people make, right? They'll get on a diet plan, for example, to give one example, because they want to lose weight in this scenario. Now, they get on a diet plan because they want to lose weight. They get 3 days into the diet plan, then they have a Domino's pizza, and then they go, I fucked it. And then the next day they go and have McDonald's and things, because now in their head, they're off the diet. One bad meal is not going to make you fat as much as one good meal is not going to make you thin. The key to success is falling off and getting back on quickly. So it's being able to go, and this is where people get caught up in their head. They get emotionally defeated. So they go, I've fucked it. I'm just going to leave it. I've done it now. I've ruined it. And this is, I'm just using that as an example. It could be in the business, could be in anything else. The trick is waking up the next day and being back on it. And so when's the last time I've been undisciplined? Depends on the definition. I fall off all the time. But what I'm incredibly good at is getting back on. I'll have moments where I'm like, I fall away from the business for a day or whatever. And then I don't beat myself up, because that is only going to make it worse. I just get back on it, fall off the diet, get back on it, miss a workout, get back on it.
So you're disciplined in being disciplined after being undisciplined. That's what you're saying.
I guess that's what I'm saying.
UNLP then.
But no, yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. And look, to be fair, don't get me wrong. My measure of my own discipline, if I'm honest, is probably quite harsh. Like overall, I probably am an incredibly disciplined person because I built that. I think it's a muscle that you build over time. But by my measure, there's always room for improvement. You know, somebody else might look and go, wow, he does this, and this like clockwork. In my head, I'm like, I could always be doing better. I always want to grow. I always want to improve. So
I think that's the mindset you have to have. And I think that's the thing, like where I'm similar, where when I want to do something, I just get obsessed, like fully obsessed. Like even, you know, this year, obviously I've been hitting the gym every morning, or not every morning because I have rest day, but the mornings I'm meant to be going to the gym, I'm there every morning. The diet,
sorry,
I've been sticking
what's
to.
the rest though? I'm not familiar with that. How do you train rest?
I still get my steps.
Is that like chest day? I know chest day. Everyone knows chest day.
That's why I don't look like you, to be fair. But anyway, I can't even remember what I was saying now. But
no, you're super disciplined in the way that you approach it all.
Yeah, but I just think like you have to get obsessed with things. Like I know some people, they say, oh, like you get like, well, do you know what I mean, my girlfriend or something, my mum, like, I think you're getting too obsessed. But same with business or investments, or now I'm going to the gym, or I'm trying to eat good. Like I just get obsessed. But it's the best way to be. That you have to constantly think you could get better. Constantly think, nah, like, you know, I could be doing more. I could be doing better. Or same thing. To be fair, now I've not kicked myself if I've fallen off. I've just, you know, the next day I've gone to the gym. Like literally, if I don't normally go on the Saturday, so like twice I've had to do it, but I'm just there on a Saturday, non-negotiable. And same with the diet, to be fair. So, and then that has impacted me on my business so much. Like it's crazy, especially with dealing with problems. Like before, if I rolled out of bed and then at 8 o'clock or 7:30, people are calling me and it's a problem or this has happened or thing, I'm thinking, oh, fuck off. Like, you know, now if I come out of the gym and I'm driving back and it's 7:30, I've already had a workout, been in the plunge pool and all of this, and someone calls me, it's like, bring it on. Like, do you know what I mean? I know how to deal with it. Like, it doesn't faze me at all. Like, the difference is insane. Like, it's crazy.
You touched on a good point there. Number one key thing to do at the beginning of the day is put yourself in a good state, put yourself in a good emotional state. Because if I'm in a poor emotional state, like what do most people do when they wake up in the morning? Pull out their phone and they scroll. What is the net benefit of that? Well, there isn't one, so forget about it. So you put yourself in a poor emotional state, then you get into your working environment or whatever environment you're going into, and you perform poorly because bad emotional states lead to bad decision, which lead to bad results. Super simple. But if I put myself in the first thing I should be doing every single day is put myself into a good state. How do I do that? Get up, go for a walk, focus in, don't have keep myself away from digital influences for the first couple of hours of the day, usual stuff, hydrate, whatever else. But like you say, then when you deal with stuff, you deal with it well because you're in a strong, resilient state. So that should be a big focus of what people are doing, is putting themselves in a state of excellence. And that's what we talk about in NLP, is a state of excellence so they can deal with things incredibly well.
So obviously Sam mentioned about you doing in your 20s, and you also went on BBC show, right? Survival Week or Survival Hell Week?
So the name of the show was Special Forces Ultimate Hell Week, so you were quite close.
Bit of a mouthful.
You're quite close. You had the S at the beginning. So that show, I mean, 20s, I guess, 29. I had my 30th birthday on the TV show. That show was basically, the principle behind it was taking the 30 fittest people in the UK, that's their words, not mine, and putting them up against Special Forces selection from all of the different countries. So we had to do Special Forces selection processes from the British SAS, the US Navy SEALs, Filipino NAVSOG, the Australian SAS, the Russian Spetsnaz, the Israeli counterterrorism, and they basically pulled out some of their harder stuff and got us to do it and to see, you know, who could last, who could actually go through it. Could normal civilians, albeit fit civilians, make their way through all of this Special Forces selection? It was incredibly hard, but an incredibly fascinating time and a great learning experience about myself, to be honest. I learned a lot about myself on that show because it was really, I mean, I can sit here and say it was hard, but it was arguably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, by far, certainly physically and mentally, because the challenge there was every few days you had a different special forces come in, and each one of them was trying to prove that theirs was the hardest selection, so they were just hitting us with their hardest possible stuff. So we were sort of underfed, underslept, extremely physically battered, and on top of that obviously the mental aspect and so on as well. So no, it was good, and like I said, I learned a lot about myself that I've carried with me to this day as well.
What's some of the examples of like the things that they got you up to, like the different courses?
Yeah, I mean, naturally there was a lot of mileage, there was a lot of carrying weight. So for example, Australian SAS, what did they do? First thing, we got our bags.
Is this your first one?
No, the first one was US Navy SEALs. I mean, US Navy SEALs, they beasted us a bit, and then they said, go to bed, and we'll see you at 7 a.m., which, come on, we all knew that was going to be nonsense.
Yeah.
1 a.m, bang, 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 gunshots outside, smoke everywhere. They dragged us out of our tent. They dumped us in cold water, because that's the thing. Whatever you do, they just want to get you wet first and cold first, and then you do it. Beasted us for a while, and while they're beasting us, they're sort of spraying hoses in your face and shouting a lot for a megaphone. The US Navy SEALs were a lot of noise. There was a lot of gunshots.
Call
us all sorts of things. They called us all sorts of things. And they gave everyone their own little respective nicknames. So
what was yours?
Yeah, don't try to avoid the question.
They nicknamed me Lambo because they were given notes on everyone prior to the show, and so the notes they were given to me on me were, oh, he's an entrepreneur, he drives a Lamborghini, blah blah blah. So they were shouting at me, hey Lambo, get on your back, Lambo on your belly, and whatever else they were shouting.
Did you ask them what colour their Lambo was?
No, I didn't. We didn't really have that much back and forth conversation. My response is more, who you are, yes sir. So yeah, that was the Navy SEALs. What did they do? They beasted us there. They stuck us on a coach, and then they took us to the Welsh coast, because we did all this in the Brecon Beacons, which is where the British SAS train. They drove us to the Welsh coast, and then we'd spent 11 hours just getting dunked in and out of the sea. The things you don't know it's going to be 11 hours. You just think, oh, I'm going to be here for 20 minutes or something. And the idea with all of these different selection processes is to make you feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And that was flipping cold, and people were dropping like flies just from day one. I was like, "Oh, this is good, because at least I'm not going to be the first person to be going home." That's the biggest fear, isn't it? You go on one of these shows and you're like the first person home. They actually, too many people dropped, and they actually let some people come back in, which
They wouldn't have had a TV program. Otherwise.
Yeah, which was good for them.
That's an exclusive.
Yeah,
but I feel like the way you prepared for that show, what you talked about was incredible. So you actually locked yourself in a hotel, right? 3 days.
I did. Look, I knew that that's going to come down to mindset. So I took advice from a guy that had been through Special Forces selection, and he said, look, gave me some really good advice. Amongst that, he said, when you think you're done, you're only 40% of the way there. And that he said, it might not feel like it at the time, but every exercise has an end, every hill has an end, and it's really going to come down to your ability to be mentally resilient. You know, they're not going to kill you. So you just got to keep on going. And so when it comes to mindset, I'm good there. So I just turned up a few days early at the hotel that they sort of got us to go to meet up at the beginning. I locked myself in the room and I just grilled my mindset. I was just consuming videos that I knew would put me in a strong state of mind, audio, running sort of NLP exercise processes that will put me in a strong state of mind, a state of excellence. And by the time I came out of that hotel room, I legitimately felt like I could run through a wall. Like mentally, I was so prepared that I knew, to the point that I had the resolve that I knew without a shadow of doubt I would not quit anything before I dropped dead. Like that was my sort of, and I made that decision. I know that sounds a bit mad, but I was like, I will not stop until I drop. Like quite literally. I thought I'm in a safe place to drop, so I will not stop until I collapse and drop, because there's medics, there's whatever else, so might as well push this fucking body to the limit and see where the limit is.
Did you reach the limit?
I got very close. But no, interestingly, and that was one of my key learnings. It really was like what that guy said, that when you think you're done, you're only 40% there. It could even be less. Like some of the stuff we were doing, you sit there in your head, you think it's impossible to carry on going. But if you tell your body to keep going, it fucking keeps on going. And like one of the Australian SAS, that was hard. So the Australian SAS, first thing we did, loaded up our bags. They weigh everyone's bag, make sure it's at least 20 kilograms. Got us to put our food in our bag. Remember, we don't know what we're doing. We've got no watch. We don't know we don't know what's happening at any point of the day. And then they're like, right, 5 kilometre race, cross country, you know, up and down hills, through rivers. Whoever comes last is going home. So everyone's bombing it full tilt. Now, when you bomb it full tilt with 20 kilos up and down hills through a river, 5K might not seem like long, but that's you pretty shot. Then they were like, okay, cool, now we're going to kick off. So what they want to do is just get you done from the start. And we basically went from checkpoint to checkpoint, and every time you think this is going to be the last checkpoint, something changes. So it's like, oh, we're going to checkpoint 32. Then you get to checkpoint 32 and it's like, oh, now we're going to carry this extra load. So now we're carrying an extra 40 kilograms per person to the next checkpoint. And you're thinking, this is impossible. And then I thought to myself, well, when it gets dark, it started getting dark. I thought, well, that's good. It's getting dark. You know, it's a TV show. They won't be able to film us. And then this guy gets his bag out and starts giving everyone head torches. And I was like, oh, great. It looks like we're not stopping. And my thing was just humor and just keeping on, and just one step at a time. And turned out that we just kept on going. Then we thought we were going to end, and then next thing you're picking up a stretcher and carrying that. It was relentless. And then he said at one point, about 3 o'clock in the morning, right, we're going to sleep here. At which point, no tent, no nothing. It's just like, we're going to sleep here on the floor. So I was cool with that. I was so tired. So he said, take your boots off. We're all going to sleep here. So we all lay down to go sleep, went to sleep. 20, 30 minutes later, smoke grenades everywhere, gas. We now have to wake up and go to the next checkpoint, put our boots on, which is horrible, by the way. So that sounds really trivial, but when you've got no skin left on your feet, taking boots off, because the thing, when they get you wet and then make you do loads of miles, you can kiss goodbye to the skin on your feet. So putting your boots on and running and putting a mask on and running. Bear in mind, you've been going the whole entire day before, you've not slept and you've not eaten, but you've had to carry your food around all day. So that's the sort of head fuck side of it. And then going to another checkpoint, then you got to dig in sandbags. And then this is one of my favourite parts. Sounds bizarre, but favourite part on reflection. So throughout that, I was absolutely obliterated. Everyone was absolutely obliterated because it's the next day now and we're still grafting. So 36 hours that exercise went on for. And what happened is towards the end, so he lined everyone up, and bear in mind we still haven't eaten our food, but we still carried it around the whole time, and we haven't really slept bar that 20 minutes when we had the gas attack. He lined everyone up and he's like, right, we're going to do a 20-kilometer speed march. Stick with me or you're gone. And I didn't realise at the time this guy was world record holder for speed marching. This Australian guy just bombs off, and I just remember, like, I was like, I can't walk this fast. So now I'm sort of running at the back, and in my head, like when he said it, we're going to do 20 kilometers, I straight away was like, that's physically impossible now, physically impossible. But I'll just go as far as I can go, and I look down at my laces are undone. I can't stop to do them up because this guy's just off and I need to stick with him. And we ran around the corner and he went, I'm just kidding, you're done. Ugh. And I was like so emotional because so many things in my head at that point. I genuinely felt like crying because I was so proud of the fact that I just fucking went for it.
Anyway,
because I was so convinced I couldn't do it, but I was like, well, just go as far as you can go. And that was one of the big things that I learned about myself, is like about not giving up and just try and just go for it, just give it a go. I was like, well, on reflection, I was so happy that I was willing to try, even though it was a seemingly impossible task at that point in time. There's no way I would have been jogging 20k after this guy was still with a 20 kilo rucksack on after 36 hours, no food, no sleep, trekking cross country through the Brecon Beacons. But I'll have a go, you know, and every step was agony by that point as well. So no, I was super happy about that. Also super happy that it was a ruse and we weren't really doing 20 kilometers. That was a bit of a relief. But no, that was the most brutal, but that's an idea of sort of how brutal it was, I guess.
That's a good lesson. That's a good lesson. Yeah, how did the program end with you? Not to ruin it, if you know, we want want to watch.
Yeah, it wasn't all. Didn't all go to plan. So basically, the last guy, so the guy that kicked me out was the Russian Spetsnaz. So I didn't choose to leave, but I did get kicked out, or asked to leave, told to leave, whatever. But basically, we just didn't see eye to eye, and I disagreed with some things accidentally that he said, and I think he also didn't like me because of the write-up that he was provided about me. And so, although I actually performed quite well in the task that he set, at the end of the evolution, he turned around and was like, "You're going home," and that was that, really.
Fuck 'em, Russians.
You did well. You got pretty far, right? Semi-final.
Yeah. Look, I'm 100% happy with it. Like, I didn't leave out a choice, so that's fine with me. It's at the time, I wasn't too happy with that guy. He's still a dickhead.
Yeah.
He'll always be a dickhead. But
His behaviour.
I don't know if we need to put that out, but it's but either way, no. Yeah, his behaviour wasn't. I didn't agree with his behaviour, but he as a person.
That's a crazy story to have, though, and to
yeah, it was cool.
It's,
I think. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there,
No,
Joe. I was going to say, I think for you to go through something like that demonstrates pure resilience, right? And relating that back to business, in business you have to be resilient, in sales you have to be resilient. Do you think people are born with resilience, or do you think people can develop resilience, and if so, how?
That's a great question. It's a really good question. I mean, you guys are good at questions. You really are.
We'll put this in the group chat like tonight. Mate, we've done this before. Oh, mate, he said I asked a great question.
No, it's a great question, isn't it? Because resilience is such an important thing. I think it's cultivated. Look, don't get me wrong. Some of it can come from your environment naturally, but I think you can consciously choose to build your resilience. Like for me, the attitude of never giving up is a transferable skill that you can build in a controlled environment. So if I'm going in the gym, for example, and that's one of the reasons I love the gym is because it's psychological training. If I'm lifting weights and I don't feel like I can do any more, but I'm like, you're going to try and do some more, you're pushing to the limit. Again, that's a transferable skill that allows you to push to the limit elsewhere. If I'm on the treadmill and I'm running and you feel like you're done, but you're like, no, screw it, you're going to do another 5 kilometers or whatever it is, that ability to carry on through pain and that ability to make a decision to choose to keep trying and never give up, that's like a muscle that you grow. And you grow it in that controlled environment and you take it outside and you apply it everywhere. Because if I'm not going to give, this is how deep I'm going to tell you how deep my training is. And so I'll be on the treadmill and I'll be struggling because I'm hitting it quite hard and I might want to slow it down or I might just want to stop. And I will ask myself the question, if you stop here, where else are you going to stop? And that's just keeps me going. If you stop here, where else are you going to stop? If you give up now, what else are you going to give up on? Are you going to give up on your business? I genuinely, this is the shit that goes on in my head when I'm training. Are you going to give up on your business when that gets hard? Are you going to give up on your relationship when that gets hard? What are you going to give up on if you give up here? If you give up here, you're going to give up on everything. Because I do believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so that's an environment, it's so controlled that you can push yourself to a point where you're feeling pressure, where it's feeling tough, where you want to give up and force yourself to keep going. And look, I'm not saying don't kill yourself on the treadmill, but push yourself everywhere. And that's such a good place to push yourself. So to answer your question, I think it's an ability that you can grow through concerted effort, but it's not comfortable, it's not enjoyable, it's not supposed to be. That's sort of the point. But yeah, that resilience transfers everywhere. This is why I love, and I've said it many times, but this is why I love to see somebody who's in good shape, because it's a very obvious sign to me that that person is A, disciplined, can do shit when they don't feel like doing it, is B, able to push themselves and to achieve in a specific area. It's just a very easy visual thing to recognize. They may be great at other things, or lots of other people may be great at other things, but that one's so obvious to me straight away. That you've got that ability to be disciplined and resilient. But resilience is everything, man. Like sales, you gave the example of sales. If I'm going to just get upset and cry into my, whatever I'm going to cry into, my Yule drink every time I get a no, you can forget about sales, man. You're wasting your time. It's the ability to come back every single time with that enthusiasm as though there was never a knockback at all. You know, it's just come in to keep coming at something. That's how you get successful. Nobody knows. And this is why I always focus on habits, not outcomes. So for me, if I'm in sales and some people say I'm going to sell 5 things today. Fuck that. Just focus on what you're going to do. What's the habit you're going to do that's going to ultimately get the outcome? I would say focus on your output as opposed to your outcome. So like, I might set a goal. I'm going to run 5K in under 18 minutes. Now, if I want to do that, I'm setting a goal, but what I really need to focus on is the program. What's the habits that are going to get me to the goal? Maybe I need to do a specific type of interval training combined with a specific type of whatever other training. I need to have a set training regime. But if I just focus on the habits, the outcome will come. But maybe I train for 8 weeks and I get like 18 minutes 30 or I get 17 minutes 30. It's kind of unpredictable. You just got to focus on your output and then the rest of it will take care of itself. It's the same in sales, man. Focus on being razor sharp. Focus on a state of excellence. Focus on developing your tools. Maybe your tills if you're selling on a till. But focus on developing your tools and the rest is inevitable. You don't need to focus on the results. I get it because a lot of sales invites are very target heavy. But I just like to focus on habits. You focus on the habits, everything else will take care of itself. That's in life, you know, that's in business, that's in fitness, that's in every aspect of life.
I think sorry to cut off. I think that's recently actually here we did we was doing like a 3-year business plan. We had some external help come in, some really experienced a lady and a guy, Crawford, and Lady Mita. They was helping map out the next 3 years. Same sort of principle. So it's a bit of back and forth. So initially you chuck out some targets, just what's in your head, let's get it all on paper. But actually, and he said this at the start, but from all of us in the room, from the initial figures we were chucking out, by the time we broke it down into it, right down to the daily habits and setting dates, right, so you say you're going to do this, okay, by next week, okay, sure, by next week, who's accountable for that? How are we going to check in on that person, you know, and that sort of thing. And by the time we've gone through the whole procedure over the couple of days, and we had a plan for our actual kind of building out our daily routine or weekly routine, depending on sort of what it is we're doing, then when you look back at the targets at the end of the 2 days, all of us were in agreement that actually, we could up that number. We could, that number's way too low. Like, you know, and these numbers that might have scared you a bit just 2 days ago because you're just focusing on setting a goal, when you actually break it down and everyone agrees at every step along the way, you know, that it's not that hard to do. Actually, if we hold ourselves accountable, if we do X, Y, and Z, all of a sudden your goals in the long term drastically can change. So I think it's important I used to be proper goal heavy like that, but really you are just plucking numbers out your head. Potentially. And it's a bit of motivation for sure, but I think, I agree a lot with that.
Yeah, it's motivation, but it can become demotivating if you don't feel like you're progressing or you don't have the path to progression. So a couple of things you said there, which I want to highlight that's really important. Number one is if you've got a big goal, you need to break it down into its smallest possible parts.
Right the way to the next
and
step.
All the way to what do I need to do right now? What do I need to do in the next hour? What do I need to do tomorrow? And it goes back to the saying, the best way to eat a whale is one bite at a time. And sometimes people set a goal and they just get overwhelmed by the goal because they don't know where to start or it seems too big and so they just put it off. Yeah. But you need to break it down into the smallest chunk, but also, like you said, reverse engineer the process where if we're going to get here, then we need to be here by this time, here by that time, here by that time. And then you start to realize, actually, that's pretty achievable stuff. Yeah. Maybe we'll make that goal a little bit bigger. Yeah, exactly maybe we'll crank it up a bit. So no, I get that. It makes 100% sense. Goal's fine to give you a direction. You should always begin with the end in mind. But a goal without a plan is just a wish. You need to go back and actually break down the steps towards the goal. And then stop focusing on that and keep focusing on this. That's the mistake that people make. You know, often whenever I speak to a coaching client, they're like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, talk me through what's going on. I can pretty much guarantee every single time they're thinking about too many steps in the process. You know, if it's property, they're thinking about, okay, but I'm doing rent to rent service accommodation, but once I've got the property, where do I get the furniture or whatever else? I'm like, hold on. Why are we worrying about furniture when we need to be getting property? You know, let's go all the way back. And we're just thinking about too many different parts of the process. You can think about it once, create your plan, then we step back and just focus on what's important now. what's the one thing? And that's why I love the book, The One Thing. You don't need to read it. The concept's on the title. What's the one thing that would take my life or my business further right now that I should be focusing on? Do that. Forget about, in 3 months' time, what agreement do I need to use? Just cross that bridge when it comes. Right now, you need to focus on that one step, which might be contacting landlords to negotiate agreements or whatever it is, or upskilling your ability to contact landlords, whatever it is. I guarantee that one small step is not going to overwhelm you, and it's certainly not going to feel as daunting as looking at the whole entire process and thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do all of this. You don't need to do all of this. You need to do this little thing right now.
Also, when you fall off, it's easier to get back on quickly. If you was just thinking of the larger goal and things aren't going your way, like in business, this always happens. We all go through stages where things aren't going your way, and if you're just focused on the overall larger goal, you might question yourself, you might question your business idea, you might question your strategies, you might question everything, and you try to rethink the whole thing, when actually, once you have a plan and you have lots of small steps, it's a lot easier to track and think, I just need to get back on the plan, I need to make more calls, or I need to set up more meetings, or, I know that I need to be looking at, for me, 5 jobs a week, and actually I've only looked at 3, how can I, and you start actually being able to dissect and properly assess a business in a way that, like large businesses would, rather than, I think in the first couple of years when you set up a business, it's just, I've got a big goal, I've got an idea, and I know I'm driven, I know I'm ambitious, but now I'm just going to fucking try absolutely anything. You don't really know what's going on, but once you actually have been through a couple of years of business and you get a lot more context, I guess, and experience, and then you do things like this, you get a plan, it's so much easier to stay on track and hold yourself accountable, or whoever's in the business accountable, and just stay focused. That I know I've already sat down, I don't need to question myself. I know I said if I take this step, that goal is going to be achieved. So don't question that, don't waste time.
100%, yeah.
On questioning myself.
I mean, you can have space to step back and reflect. Reflection is important. But that is a separate thing that you do. You step back and you reflect and you give yourself feedback and say, okay, what's going well? What can I improve on? What can I learn? Am I still aligned? Am I on track? Do I need to do something differently? Yes, no, maybe, whatever. Take that feedback, use it as feedback, do whatever you need to do, and then get back onto those tasks. So there needs to be some space for feedback, but we can't be doing that all the time. So we need to step out, do that separately, reflect on what we're doing, what we're achieving, and then get back on with it, and just focus on that one step at a time.
Looking back at what you've done, you've achieved quite a lot. Apart from, I'd probably say the TV program, mentally, I feel like that's like a huge achievement. Apart from that, what would you say is your second best achievement?
Well, that's not my first best achievement.
Did you not say?
Well, you're presupposing that's my best achievement. That hand on heart, my absolute biggest achievement is being happy. I'm so happy. When people say, like, if you could be anywhere in the world right now, where would you be? Or if you could do anything right now, I would literally be here doing this. Would not change. Yeah, I would. I'd be with you guys doing this because that's where I want to. This is how I built my life. Like, I'm exactly where I want to be, doing exactly what I want to do with the exact people that I want to do it with. So I'm so 100% just happy. That's the most. I know it's cheesy as fuck, but that is the biggest achievement I've ever had. Like, my life does not consist of things I don't want to do. It is purely built around things that I enjoy doing. And look, my rule for life is I'm always grateful, never satisfied. So I'm always doing things that I enjoy doing. I'm always exactly where I want to be. And I'm constantly growing as a human being. And I feel that because I'm ticking that box, I feel good all the time because life is improving. I never want to be the guy that looks back and goes, oh, do you remember what we did 10 years ago? How fun was that? I want to be the guy that's like, look at this shit we're doing right now. How cool is that? You guys kicking off a podcast, absolutely smashing it. How cool is that? And I'm getting the opportunity to be a part of that journey. How sick is that? I want to be looking at exciting, interesting things all the time. That's why my ethos in life is live daily. And that's it's 2 simple words that I live by all the time, which is that you should give energy, enthusiasm to every single day of your life, and whatever you're doing, you should max it out. You should be fully present, and you should use that moment. You should be in that moment, just be there and enjoy it. And that came to me years ago. And as with a lot of things, good stuff sometimes comes from bad stuff. Years ago, a friend of mine got quite sick, and quite suddenly to us, passed away. And I just had this realization that we're not here for a set amount of time. We get so comfortable thinking, yeah, man, I'm going to be here till I'm like 70, 80 years old, and then I'm just going to pass away peacefully in the night. That's not the real world. That every single one of us is in a queue to go, and we just don't know where we are in that queue. And so the best thing we can possibly do is just make sure we live every single day fully. Doesn't mean you just go on holiday and you don't work, but if you're working, like, just max out what you're doing in your work. Just be the fucking best. Put 100% into it. And when you're traveling, when you're doing whatever you're doing, put 100% into it. Like, live every day. Like, live every single day, because one of these days is going to be your last. And I feel like I'm at a point now where, God, don't get me wrong, I don't want to go. I love this place, but if I were to go, I'd be like, I'm cool. Like, I was in alignment with what I wanted to do. I was who I wanted to be. Yeah, I'm all right. Like, I'm not going to leave with regrets. My biggest fear would be to leave this world with regret and think, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. And like, one of the books that I've read, some morbid stuff, like one of the books that I read not that long ago was a book called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And one of those regrets is, I wish I lived a life that was true to myself. I live a life that's true to myself. I do the stuff I want to do. I do it with the people I want to be with. I don't see the people I don't want to be with. I surround myself with the life that I want, and every single person should, but not everybody does, which is a shame.
Very true.
Yeah, that's some real good advice. That gave me goosebumps, man. That was yeah. Just on that as well. So we're kind of on that, but a little bit of a different subject. I want to talk a little bit about belief, self-belief systems. So a lot of people struggle with belief, even as entrepreneurs that are doing well. They don't always believe they can get to that next level. And I think programming, it kind of links into NLP. We're told no so much throughout our life, especially as a kid. It starts in the school system, in my opinion. I think they say between the age of 5 and 7, they're your primative years of tuning. Like, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. No, climb off of that. So you're told no so much. People really struggle with that self-belief. Anyone listening to this that could be struggling with self-belief, what would you say to them? How do you build self-belief systems?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, number one, know that your beliefs can be changed. Now, the danger is that a lot of people don't realize that, and they don't think about that. I know I gave you guys the example when we were doing training that, a dog knows is in the room, but he doesn't know that he knows it's in the room. And what I mean by that is it doesn't think about its thinking. And we as human beings, if we choose to, which a lot of people don't, have the ability to think about our thinking and make a decision on whether or not that's serving us. Because I don't think there's good beliefs or bad beliefs. I don't think there's true beliefs or false beliefs. I just think there's useful things and there's things that aren't so useful. There's things that are taking us where we want to go or to who we want to be, and there's things that aren't. Now, as you say, there's an imprinting period early on in our life when a lot of our pivotal beliefs are formed. And the scary fact is a lot of people carry them on for years. So if you created pivotal beliefs when you're 7 years old, take 7 years away from your age now, that's how long you've been carrying around some of your core beliefs about yourself. And we upgrade our phones every 6 months or whatever, but we don't upgrade our beliefs. And so what we ought to do on a semi-regular basis is step out of our lives, look onto our lives, and make that consideration. Is my thinking serving me? Is the way that I'm thinking about myself, the way that I'm thinking about the world, is that actually beneficial to me? Is that actually useful to me? Is that actually taking me where I want to go? If the answer is no, then what thinking would? What thoughts do I want to, what beliefs do I want to install that are going to take me to the life that I want to have? Because I have the ability to change them. Now, when you want to, not a plug, but I go into quite a deep exercise in my book, which is hence the name Burn the Bullshit, where you physically burn your bullshit beliefs, as I like to call them, the things that aren't serving you, and you replace them with your empowering beliefs, the ones that take you to where you want to go. So that's a powerful exercise worth doing. But another thing that will support you on that journey is surround yourself with people that are doing it, man. You show me your friends and I'll show you your future. You've heard those sayings before, but they're so true. Like, if you want to believe that you can make £1 million a month, get some friends that are making £1 million a month, and you'll soon realize actually it's not that big a deal. These are just normal people that are doing things very well or in a different way. If you want to get in incredible shape, go and surround yourself with people that are in incredible shape. you are the sum of the people you spend the most time with. So if you spend your time with broke, negative, miserable people, you're going to end up being a broke, negative, miserable person. If you spend your time with ambitious, positive, supportive people, you're going to end up being one of those. So your environment and the people that you surround yourself with, critically important. I won't have negative people around me. I will never have negative people around me. I refuse to entertain negative conversations because I know that that's poison that will just take over your brain, little seeds that will plant and grow. I don't want it. I want to look after this thing. This thing is super valuable. It's everything. How I perceive the world is everything. The rest is just details. So I want to make sure that I'm surrounded by people that are super positive and super supportive, and they don't have to be wealthy, but if I'm driven business-wise, then they would need to be ambitious. They need to be driven. They need to have similar values, similar goals. We need to be aligned as human beings. And the most important thing that people can do if they want to get into those circles and become part of those networks is to be one of those people. That's the bit that people miss out. If you want to be surrounded by supportive, positive people, then be a supportive, positive person. If that's like attracts like, that's going to attract those people towards you because those people want to be surrounded by that too. So I look around my friend circles, we have similar values. It might not be, I don't want people that we're all identical and we just tell each other we're doing great.
How
we
to
need
make money,
yeah. We need people that are pulling you when you need to be pulled, and you need people that are different because that adds perspective. But people that are working with your best intentions and you're all looking out for each other. That's what I want in my life, and that's who I want to be showing up for other people in my life.
So on your, with that, your network, obviously we've seen you've got a large network of very successful people. I guess in a business context, wealthy people. Like you say, they don't necessarily have to be wealthy, but as this is a business podcast, we talk about the wealth side of things. You spend a lot of time on yachts, private jets, and whatever else.
Super yachts.
Super yachts. There is super yachts, though. Sort of the mindset of some of the network. Obviously, they help inspire you, push you. What's I guess the different levels. Obviously, like we see you as you're successful, you're wealthy, you've got a strong mindset. You've obviously got access to people a whole nother level. Like, what's the kind of difference you see from, I don't know, someone worth 500 mil to 100 mil to 50 mil to 10 mil to they got a few million?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like years ago, it's a really good question. Years ago, I just thought when somebody was wealthy, they were wealthy. Or when they were rich, because I just didn't understand. I wasn't rich. So you just see somebody with a nice car, Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever, and you're like, that person's rich. And any rich person must just be the same. I'm on $2,000 a month. Everyone else must be on $10,000 a month. But what I came to realize when I started to develop my own finances, but B, become fortunate enough to spend time around people that were exponentially more wealthy than me, is that there are levels to this game. That's what I came to realize. There are levels to this game. There is, there's people with millions, like you say, tens of millions, people with 100 millions. There's people out there with billions. And so I remember clearly once, years ago, I was with a friend of mine it was in my eyes at the time, this guy is absolutely balling. He just bought himself a brand new Ferrari. It was like 300 mil. And we're... So I got millions on the mind. 300 grand. So he bought a Ferrari. It would have been a good Ferrari for 300 grand. It was hovering all the way. 300 grand. He just bought his new Ferrari. I'm like, wow, this guy. It's in my head. I'm like, he's absolutely smashing it. We're driving to another friend's house, and as we're driving up to this other friend's house, he turned around to me and he went, he's so rich, isn't he? And I never said anything because I was just, these little things stick in your mind. And in my head, I was like, that's weird because this guy is so rich. And he said that this guy is so rich. Like, there's levels to this. And that's when I realized, okay, well, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, that's as different as somebody earning $2,000 a month, somebody earning 20 grand a month, and somebody earning 200 grand a month, somebody earning £2 million a month. That it's so different in terms of the actual financial side of it. And I don't know if we always realize that. I'm fascinated by it. I always wonder. I don't know if I'll ever get an answer, but I go through private housing estates. I look at all of the mansions there, and I'm like, I wonder how much this person earns, and this person earns, and this person earns. Is it 10 grand a month? Is it 100 grand a month? Is it £1 million a month? I'm just so intrigued by it, because I just realised that, in the salaried world, there's like a framework, and people are like, oh, okay, standard salary might be 30 grand, and then like good salary is like 200 or 100. I don't know, I'm a bit out of touch with salaries, but it's those sort of marks. There's this standard frameworks. In the business world, there's no framework, man. There's no rules, there's no ceilings, there's no cap. It is unlimited. It's absolutely unlimited. It's just fascinating to see. And that just opened that moment to something wired up in my brain differently. I was like, my mind's a bit more open now. There are levels to this game.
You wouldn't realise either, though, like you do walk past a lot of people. Like we spend times in rooms of people that are super wealthy and having conversations with.
People
just
are people,
know.
man. It's so easy to put someone on a pedestal. Like, incredible financial and business achievements, but they're still just a person. They're just a person, and we've got to not put those people on a pedestal too much. Like, look for what they did well, but they're not gods. They're just people that did shit very well. What did they do well? And replicate it. The best way that you can replicate success is look at successful people and model their behavior, model what they do. How did they communicate with people? What did they focus on in their business that was an impact area or key area for them? And how did they generate that level of success? If you want to get good at anything, look at a successful person and copy what they do. You're going to shortcut all of their years of learning. Somebody might have taken 20 years to become an incredible entrepreneur. I can sit with them for 20 minutes and work out what it is that they do very well and take out years and years of their learning and shortcut that process. This is why having mentors is so important, because they're people that have trod that path and can just say to you, don't do that, do that. That might just save you 2 years. And we've got limited years to get this business popping. So we need to save years. We need to shortcut. We need to save time. So it's a modeling. Like, I could take a chef, to use an alternative example, who's an incredible chef, and has spent decades learning how to become an incredible chef. I follow him around the kitchen, write down everything he does, weigh everything he puts in the pot and what temperatures he uses, and basically come up with this recipe. That's his recipe. If I copy it, I can create the same dish. And it's the same with business. If I look at entrepreneurs and I can get their recipe on how they're successful, I can replicate to some extent their success.
What entrepreneurs have inspired you? Is there someone in particular? It might be Richard Branson or Stephen Bartlett. Like, who of you would you say, when you were coming up, who did you try and replicate?
It's a good question.
Older than Stephen Bartlett, so.
Oh, easy. I looked at Stephen Bartlett and I said, this child's going to be good. He's going to do great things. I love the way he's playing with that rattle. If I do that, my business will thrive. You know what? Like, I've got such gigantic respect for all of these guys. They're probably not my guys, if I'm honest. Like, huge respect for it. Richard Branson, like, that's brand, and that's incredible brand stuff. It's not so much for me. Who do I rate entrepreneurially? I rate Phil Knight from Nike. I rate Alan Sugar. I rate Arnie. Who doesn't rate Arnie? But Arnold Schwarzenegger as a human being, it's just a guy like, what bloke doesn't? But if you break it down, the reason we do is because the things he's achieved, it's just incredible. Like, any one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's achievements in a lifetime would be a mega successful life. That I become bodybuilding champion and I win years after year after year. Great achievement, life achievement, job done, good life, well done. But then you go on to become, a lot of people don't realise this, become a multi-millionaire through property investment and business, built himself an incredible property business and gets mega wealthy. Great achievement, well done, good life. That on its own, again, is a great achievement. Then after that, he's gone and managed to become Hollywood megastar. If that on its own would have been a great achievement, well done.
So after he's done,
and then he's gone on to thrive in politics and get himself mega senior role. That on its own would have been an incredible achievement.
There's an extraordinary documentary about him on Netflix. I had no idea Arnie was on smoke like that, and he's achieved the highest levels of success possible, and no one looks more boss than him smoking a fucking cigar. That guy knows how to smoke a cigar.
He made me. I didn't, but he made me want to smoke a cigar for a fleeting moment there. But just any one of those things, and what was the hand that he was dealt? Well, he lived in some random remote location in Austria. You know, so if you're in the UK right now, you got no excuse to not fucking smash it. This is the land of opportunity, man. You could do so much stuff here. And there's so much opportunity around every corner. And this guy's done that from some obscure location. What can we take from that? Well, one thing that stood out to me about him in his books, in that documentary, is just the fact that he talks about having this crystal clear vision of all the things that he was going to do. Like, he saw it in his mind so that he could then see it in the real world. And that's so important, man. Just getting crystal clear on what it is you want to do, and then breaking down those steps into getting there.
Yeah, that's solid advice. Just touching on the UK, actually. So I am hit all the time with podcasts and promo videos about moving to Dubai. There's better lives outside the UK. Yeah, what are your thoughts on the UK and the future? I know this isn't like an economist podcast, but I'm very interested to understand what you think about building a life in the UK for success, because you hear a lot about how the UK's kind of going downhill. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I would say, and this is, I'll frame this is my opinion, and I don't expect anyone to have to take it on. So I've looked at, quite recently, moving to Dubai, but that's purely, it was initially purely a financially driven move, because the challenge with the UK is the tax is just insane. So you earn money, you're giving away 50% of it if you want it in your bank account. So if I've got a business, let's say I earn £1 million, and then, you know, round numbers, 25% corporation tax, buy 250 grand, and then I want to take that into my account, 33.75% dividend tax, buy another 250 grand, and I'm, around the mark of I'm actually going to get $500,000 out of my mill. If I want to double my actual income, easiest way is just move country to a country that's not going to tax me on that income. That's the easiest way. You could struggle and try and get 2 mil, or you could just move countries. So there's possibly a time in the process when it's a worthwhile move. But what I will say is, if you want to make money and you want to grow a business, this is the place. It's only at the point that you want to get that money out of the business. UK is great for growing a business. You throw your money back in, you're not paying tax on it. You know, you're reinvesting, grow. It's only at the point when you want to start drawing down, it could be a bit painful. And that's the point when you might want to look at moving somewhere else. Now, Dubai, I've got nothing against it. When I looked at it, my logic was time difference is quite similar. Most of the work I do is virtual anyway, so I can do it from anywhere in the world. It's sunny, it's safe. I like the sound of that. So it's a place that I'm 100% cool with. Would I want to go and set up a business and trade in Dubai? No. Even if I was there, I would be trading in the UK. This is where it's at when it comes to business and making money. But it's easier to do that from here, I would say, and then move somewhere later, maybe Dubai, maybe Monaco, maybe somewhere else. You know, different. I've looked at lots of different places, but initially, you know, for those that are on the way up, grind it out here. That's a later on move.
I think a lot of people think about the move too soon. It's a really good point you just touched on. So you see like the Lambo lifestyle in Dubai, no taxes, but it's fucking expensive there. Do you know what I mean? So I take it you've probably got to earn a certain amount of money to actually, enjoy the lifestyle Dubai has to offer.
To make it worthwhile, to make it worthwhile. If you're earning $5,000 a month, 10 grand a month, but your living cost goes up double there, you know, maybe your living cost here is $3,000 and it goes to $6,000 there. Is it a worthwhile move? The net benefit might be quite negligible. So there's a point, exactly as you say, when it might become worthwhile because you're earning so much money you almost can't justify paying that tax bill. Now, don't move because of tax, but move if that move makes sense to you for all of the other reasons as well. Monaco's an all right place to go. They're all right places to go, but Monaco's the most expensive per square foot real estate on the planet. So you need to earn enough money to warrant going to pay that much more money to live somewhere. It's for most entrepreneurs that might be listening to this, it's probably a later on move. Like, build your business here, get yourself where you want to be here or close to, and then look at those moves. But you can have a Lambo lifestyle here. You know, trust me, you can do that. Lambo, or a Rolls Royce lifestyle, or you can have whatever or Tesla lifestyle. Tesla's a good car.
You could have both, just like
you can have both.
Add it to the fleet.
You can add it to the fleet. Indeed.
I think some of the interesting stuff we've covered over the last few days, and we've done our NLP training, was how it linked in it's like the kind of surface level of getting hypnotized.
Yeah.
So could you explain a little bit more about that? I mean, I think all of us found that quite interesting. So I think our listeners
it's
will also
fascinating.
find it
Darren Brown
very
stuff.
interesting. Darren Brown kind of stuff, hypnotizing, and how NLP ties in with that.
Yeah, I mean, NLP, one of the initial persons, the founders of NLP, initially modeled a few different therapists and looked at what they were doing, the language patterns they were using. One of those people was a famous hypnotist at the time called Milton Erickson. And they looked at the language pattern that Milton Erickson used to become so effective at hypnotism. And what they realized is that language patterns used as a tool of influence are basically a form of conscious hypnosis. You're influencing consciously, whereas hypnosis, you're communicating directly with the unconscious mind in both scenarios. So it's really, where does this crossover come? Well, the primary difference between hypnosis, as you're describing it, would be whether somebody's in a trance-like state and you're communicating with their unconscious and their conscious is switched off, or whether they're fully conscious, but they're just unconscious of the communication that you're having with them at a deeper level. You're having a conversation beyond the conversation. That's the real sort of NLP
Mindfuck.
once you get it, or mindfuck as you like to call it. I mean, and you guys like Darren Brown, incredible at NLP, very good, and obviously gone and put their own flair, their own skills, and added tools to that. But great examples of what you can do from a perspective of influence if you've got incredible skill sets like he has.
Yeah, that's crazy. Some of the stories are crazy, but I guess we won't go too much into that. I want to touch on obviously the property. That's how obviously we initially met and spoke about before this. But so property, you've been investing for how many years?
Gives away my age a little bit, but I think we've done that by now when you said I was older than Stephen Bartlett. So I've been investing in property for the last 17 years.
Yeah.
So I bought my first place 17 years ago.
And what's the sort of portfolio look like? You've got a mix.
For me, it's a complete mix. So my main strategies are HMO, buy-to-let, serviced accommodation, flips, BRRs. That's my primary strategies.
Just all of them.
And joint venture. But you got to have a diverse portfolio. But what I would say to guys kicking off in property, keep it. I would stick to one thing first and then layer upon that. A lot of people get that shiny penny syndrome, try and do loads of different things. Pick a strategy, build that strategy up. And for me, years ago, I didn't know what I was doing, so that was just buy to let. Build your buy to let up. And then I built my HMO portfolio up. And then I moved on to service accommodation. Along the way, I learned to use other people's funds and to BRR and to flip as well. Initially focus on one thing, then you can diversify a little bit later. But all of those have really specific benefits that I enjoy.
Yeah, and obviously with the current market conditions, interest rates, loan to values, and all that sort of stuff, about going too deep into making it a whole property podcast. But what's your take on that? Obviously, we've spoke about property on previous episodes, so it's always something that people are, of course, very interested in and probably a bit nervous about.
My take on that, I think, is fantastic. I think every different economic climate brings different opportunity. You just need to be tuned into what that opportunity is. Now, any seasoned investor, take the best investor on the planet, Warren Buffett, will know that the time to buy is when people are selling. The time to sell is when people are buying. That is 101 of investing. Warren Buffett said, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. In this market, would you say people are being greedy or fearful?
Fearful.
So then it's the time to get out and get active, and to be greedy. That's 101 investing. So right now we're looking at a fantastic opportunity to get involved in property, one that you might not see again for quite a long time. So you just need to make sure if you do that, you know what you're doing, you got the right support, the right education, and you make smart steps. Don't just go and do anything and not know what you're doing. But if you know what you're doing, you've got the right support and the right education, you can do some incredible things in the property space right now, because every economic climate has a different opportunity. We just need to roll with that and to capitalize on that.
That's a really good point. How much money do you think somebody needs to start investing in property? I know that's a very subjective question, but say for example somebody's been saving.
That's an easy one. Yeah, super easy.
What would your advice be to that?
0. To invest in property is 0. If you, I mean, it depends how. If you want to invest in property, you need zero money of your own. You just need the ability to be able to leverage other people's money. That's the biggest mistake. It doesn't matter if you've got 10 grand, 100 grand, £1 million. If you focus on the money that you've got, at some point your money's going to be gone. And then it's all deployed, you're done. If you learn the ability to utilize other people's money, which every wealthy person that you'll ever think of, all the billionaires do in some way, shape or form, the Bransons and so on, they're all leveraging other people's money. If you learn to leverage other people's money, that's how you're going to create an incredible property business. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, said that leverage is power. Simple as that. Because if you learn to leverage others, so point being, let's say I go and private investors is what I'm referring to here. Like if you've got zero cash, if I go and I buy a property with zero of my own cash, but I borrow 300,000 from a private investor, and people will go, oh, you can't do that, but 100% you can, because I've done it loads of times, and people in our community have done it loads of times. I think the most that's been raised by our members is 17 million in 1 month of other people's money to buy a property. So it's straightforward stuff. Why? Because it's a win-win scenario, which I'll cover. But let's say I take 300 grand. I'll use an exact property that I've just bought. I bought it for 260 grand, just under, but a round figure it, 260 grand, 10 grand for fees, so stamp duty, conveyancing, 30 grand for renovation, so about 300 grand, just over 300 grand, property revalued at 400 grand. Now, if I refinance that property, put a 75% loan to value mortgage on it, pull the 300 grand out, I could pay the investor back the cash. Now, I will need to pay them back some interest on their cash. If I've got their money for 6 months and I'm paying them 10% a year, then I might need to give them an additional 15% on top of their money. Now, that person's got more than they would have got out of the bank. So that's a win for them. I've managed to acquire a property. That's a win for me. The other solution is just flip it. You know, rather than do the BRR stuff, is a great opportunity right now to just flip property. So then you don't have to worry about, I don't have to get 115 grand out. I only need to get out enough I need to get out the investor's cash, 315, and anything above 315 is profit. So even if I sold it for 365, 50 grand up, and you don't need to be hands-on with that. So this is the misconception. The biggest myth is that we need to spend loads of time and loads of money to get wealthy. We need to learn to leverage other people's time and other people's money. Like that property, prime example, I went there once to pick up the keys. I gave it to the project manager who was managing the build and the refurbishment, and I went there at the end to do the handover and take it back 2 months later. I didn't spend time on that. I didn't spend time there. So that's easy. Do 2 of those a year. And let's say you just flipped them. Let's say you do 2 of those a year, you flipped them, you use somebody else's money. That's 170 grand profit a year. Super easy. And you could have been on the beach sipping margaritas. I wouldn't suggest that you do that. It's quite a meaningless existence, but you get my point. It's super easy if you understand the legalities, how you can make that a win-win, if you network. There's certain things that I think are 100% key to being successful. Number 1 is build the knowledge. Before you do anything, you have to build knowledge. Nice and simple. Number 2 is take action. It's absolutely useless to have a load of knowledge and do nothing with it. Loads of people read loads of books, do loads of training, listen to loads of podcasts, and don't do anything with the information they're getting. So number 2 is always to back it up with action. Don't take action without knowledge. You're going to get your fingers burnt. You're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. Build the knowledge, take action. Number 3, build a network. Get people around you that you can support and that can support you, that can introduce you to other people, that can help you to grow your business, that you can help them to grow their cash and create win-win scenarios. The more powerful your network, the more powerful you're going to be. As the saying goes, your network is your net worth. So build your knowledge, take action, build a network, and then finally develop your mindset consistently. Building your mindset is like taking a shower. It's not something you do once and you're set for life. You have to do it every single day, because the bit that I see stop people is they build the knowledge, and the bit that stops them from taking action is usually the lack of belief in their ability to do it. And it's the mindset that holds them back. So you need to make sure that you cultivate that mindset that's going to enable you to go out there and take action, to do things that are uncomfortable, to step into your stretch zone, to believe in yourself. And the network's obviously going to carry you through as well. So knowledge, action, network, mindset, those are what I call the 4 pillars of success. Every single one of them will get you to where you want to go.
That's good shit. I think do you know what I find with the networking? It actually reinforces the mindset. So for example, funny enough, I put something in the group chat the other day. I can't remember exactly how it went, but I said out of the 4 things I'd break down, kind of what I'd track is, I think, business, finance situation, personal finance situation, network, and something else. Can you always remember what I said? I can't remember. But anyway, I said, like, the one thing that I'd say, even from when I first got into started setting goals and stuff, and this was, I guess, before a full plan in place, but back when I was, 18, 19, now 25, 7 years on, and I just sat there, I thought, fuck, like, fully for the long-term goals, which to most people, when you start talking about you want to be, 50, 100 million pound, like, going for that sort of life goals, I thought, I'm actually fully on track with the network, I'd say. And when you go to networking events, last week, obviously, a property deal we're looking at, which is a few £1 million would need raising, 2 different people just with complete confidence. And these are intelligent people that have dealt with lots of people that, they can see through shit. They're not going to lend money. 2 different people, like, yeah, no problem. Like, if the deal stacks out, like, cool, just give me a call, can get it sorted. And I thought, fuck, like, that's probably the biggest achievement there, that, like, these successful people have obviously had good detailed conversations with me over time, multiple conversations about business, investing, what I know, you can't bullshit them. And just to have them like, yeah, of course, a few £1 million, yeah, no problem. I'm thinking, fucking hell, like, that's good. Actually looking at the place tomorrow, so we'll see if it is a deal that I like or not. But yeah, I think that reinforces, because it's all good telling yourself and believing. I have absolute confidence in myself, but even still, when I'm at these networking events, speaking to people that are worth 8 figures, and running 8-figure, 9-figure even businesses, and you're having in-depth business conversations, and they fully are on board with what you're saying. It's just like, after you're like, oh, fucking hell.
Steve
yeah,
said
like,
they're just people, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
People are just people, yeah. But
what I'm talking about is they're reinforcing what I believed in myself, kind of thing.
External validation.
Yeah.
So, we sort of believe it, but when you go out there and you say it to someone, it's like, oh, this is really, this is,
it
is what I thought.
That's what I thought. I'm seeing it in the real world. No, it's external validation, and that's useful. And people are interesting, because some people thrive more on internal validation, some people more on external, and some people just a bit of both. But yeah, it's other people seeing what you're seeing, right? And if you're around the right people, and you're seeing the right stuff, then other people will see what you're seeing. If you're around the wrong people, they will not see what you're seeing.
Exactly.
You start talking about,
Massively.
I'm going to borrow a few million off someone to do this property deal. People be like, no, you're not. Yeah. No one's going to give you a few £1 million to do a property deal. But when you move away from the Karens, I'm just going to assume that person was called Karen, felt like a Karen. You move away from the Karens and you move into those networks, it just opens your mind up. It's like, yeah, of course, yeah. If it stacks up, no problem.
No problem. Yeah. It's like, whoa.
Give me a call.
It's mad though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why networking is so important in the right communities. There's a lot of probably crappy networking things you can go to, but if you get in the good ones, meet the right people. We've all experienced it. Do you get that? What I was just talking about. Do you still get that a lot with some of your far wealthier friends? Where you've got your ideas, or you've got your thoughts or your ambitions moving forward when you're making decisions, and they're just kind of reinforcing that when they are on board.
Yeah, I to be fair, I sound out a lot. So I mean, what I get from my sort of friend network is not money. The most valuable thing that I get is just advice and supporting one another. And so whenever I have an idea, or I think something's a great idea, I will sound it out on a select few people that I know have a valid opinion. What I don't want to do is just tell everyone, and then random people, Dave in the pub is telling me what he thinks about my new business idea. Yeah. No disrespect, Dave. You might be a savvy businessman. But what I want to do is speak to people that I know are going to give me good feedback and say to me, that's a bit shit, or that's good, or you could improve this bit, or what about that bit? Have you considered this bit? And give me good feedback. And it's great when people are like, yeah, that's a really good idea. But I also have a bit of an oh shit moment, which is, oh shit, now I've got to do it. That's a good idea. And in my head, I'm like, that's a big idea. And they're like, yeah, it's a great idea. You should definitely do it. And I'm sitting there thinking, you're 100% right. And now that you've verified it, I actually have to get out and do that. And that's excitingly scary.
Makes sense. I think overall, like, your advice to people listening, like, I'm trying to get it so people come away. There's been a lot of information. overall, in your opinion of just life, business, investing, mindset, whatever it might be, what's like a few steps that people could take? You know, maybe they don't have this network currently. Maybe they don't have the business yet or the business they want. Or, you know, what's like a few steps you think people listening to this could go away now and implement in their lives to get on track?
Yeah, look, firstly, I'm a big believer in reaching your full potential. So you're going to think anyway. You might as well be thinking big. And if your dreams don't scare you, then they're not big enough. So go big or go home, as the saying goes. I truly believe, like I've said it before, but remembering your mortality can help to drive you on, because you've only got limited time. Stop thinking you've got loads of time. Design the life that you want and go out and get it, and don't settle for anything less than the life that you want. I believe in the saying that hell on earth would be to meet the person that you could have been. And so what that means is that if on my last day on this planet, I had to be confronted with a version of Steve Doran that did all the things that Steve Doran could do, if he chose to reach his true potential, that would be hell on earth. So I want to become the absolute best version of me with the absolute best possible business that I can ever have. I want to strive to be the best possible Steve Doran that delivers the best possible value back to the world as well. And so then what do we need to do? Well, in terms of practical advice, number one, yeah, dream big. But number two, get out and just and network. The most important thing you can do is be active. And what I mean by that, don't procrastinate, do shit now, don't put things off. The other thing that you got to do, which is going to absolutely change your life, is to start to get comfortable with things that are uncomfortable. Stop waiting to not be afraid. It's not about not being afraid. It's about being courageous. And to be courageous is the ability to do shit that scares you, to be afraid and do it anyway. And we got this myth that we're just going to build our confidence and then everything's going to be okay. I'm scared every single day of loads of things that I do, but I do them anyway because I'm courageous. So you need to build that ability to be courageous. You can do that in many ways. One way, am I allowed to tell them how I do it if we've got time?
Yeah, of course.
Thank God. Imagine if you said no.
No, sorry. Go get the Thai food.
One way that I cultivate courage and the ability to be comfortable with being uncomfortable is like cold showers, cold dips, because again, it's a controlled environment where I know I'm going to absolutely hate what's about to happen, but I have to force myself to do it. If I give you an example, if I go into a cold shower and I turn the cold shower on and I'm looking at it, I'm just dealing with all of these thoughts that surface up. It's something I never get used to. It's always horrible for me. So what are the thoughts that come up? Nobody's going to know if you don't do it, Steve. You know, do it. Why don't you do it tomorrow? Don't feel like it today. And these are all of the thoughts that if I learn to overcome them, guess what? I can change my whole life. And that's just, that might be the thoughts. If I'm going to set up a rent-to-rent business, before I go and talk to a landlord, I'll maybe do it tomorrow. No one's going to know if you don't do it. All these little excuses. But if you can cultivate the ability, I'm going to give you 2 words that will change your absolute life. Are you ready? Fuck it. If you can learn to turn around and just go, fuck it. And so if I stand and look at that cold shower and I come out of all this absolute rubbish to talk myself out of it, and then at some point I get to a point where I just go, because I go, nobody will know if you don't do it. And then I say, you'll know. And then I go, fuck it. Fuck it. And I get in a cold shower. Or if I need to do something, if I need to make a difficult phone call, or if I need to go and deliver a big presentation, you know, and it's something that's making the thought of it's uncomfortable or whatever, fuck it, I'm going to go and do it, and I'm going to go and smash it. Like, if you can just get those 2 words in your head that just get you to take action. And look, if you don't like swearing, maybe pick another 2 words, like flip it or whatever else. I'm fine with that. Screw it. And if you look at the people that are successful, right, that's a Branson thing, isn't it? Screw it, let's do it. Or Nike, just do it. Like, that is really it. You need to just get to a point where you just shortcut and just get out and do it and become comfortable with being uncomfortable. So yes, build your network, have phenomenal, massive dreams that scare you, and get out, take action and do it. And don't worry about making mistakes. The biggest thing you can do, the biggest failure that you can make, is to be worried about failure. And then people aren't going to do anything. Entrepreneurs make mistakes every single day. I make mistakes all the time. I'm 100% fine with it. I'm 100% at peace with it. But in sort of normal world, it's a bit taboo to make a mistake. Nobody wants to embarrass himself or look silly. Like entrepreneur world, let's all make mistakes. Let's celebrate them. Let's laugh about them. Let's wipe ourselves off, learn from them and move on from them. So don't be afraid to make mistakes, man. Get out there and make mistakes, refine your process and keep going. So that would be my I don't know if that's 4 bits of advice, but
4 bits.
I do
You'll
like
take it anyway.
I
It's
do
good
like to
advice.
These bits
over-deliver.
from Steve Doran. Thank you very much.
Good advice. Thanks for coming on the podcast,
Thank you
Steve.
for
I
having
think
me.
we'll
Thank you.
wrap it up there. Everyone, make sure you're following us on all the social medias, the Multipliers Club, and yours. What's yours? Steve Doran
Yes,
on
at
Instagram.
Steve_Doran, and that's me on Instagram. I'll see you on there.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Amazing.
Next
Thank you
time.
so much, Steve.
Cheers.